Hi, I'm John, and I'm going to be demoing a few compressors today. This one is the Engineer's Thumb. It was designed by MerlinB, who also goes by the Valve Wizard over on DIY Stompboxes, and he also posted it on freestompboxes.com. And this is a perf board layout that I did myself from the schematic, although he did make an edge layout that includes Millennium bypass. I did true bypass. And it's just a few simple controls. It's got a ratio knob up here and a level control down here and a bright switch in the middle. And these two knobs are familiar to anyone who's ever used a Dynacomp. And they function similarly, and although this circuit is sort of in the same family, there's a few notable differences. The chip used in it is an LM13700, which is a dual version of the op-amp used in the Dynacomp, and it provides a much better noise to signal ratio. So this is a much quieter circuit than a Dynacomp can ever be. And he incorporated bright mod in his usual layout that I find very useful. One of my complaints with a lot of compressors is that your highs get attenuated when it's compressing, and this basically bypasses some of the trouble from the compressor section through to the output. The other nice thing about this layout is that it uses two op-amp chips in place of the transistors that are used in most Ross or Dynacomp circuits. And overall, as you'll hear, it's got much better noise performance and still has quite a bit of sustain. It's also, although I'm using a Strat and I won't be able to really show this, it's got a lot of headroom. You can run a boost in front of this, and in a lot of compression settings it won't freak out or do pumping. So I'm gonna just get my clean setting in. So my amp is on a pretty low volume right now, and this should be about unity with the volume all the way up and the ratio at 0. And this is with bright switch off. So pretty much no change, although you can use it as a very, very subtle, treble boost, but nobody's going to do that. So here's the compression at about 1/4. And this does raise the volume, turning up the ratio knob to a certain point. Compression halfway up. So yeah, even though that song used an orange squeezer, which is one of the compressors I'll be doing, it, still kind of does some of the same effect. You can hear, especially with fingers, you start getting a little more hue sound. I'm not really sure what else to call that. I'm gonna turn the volume down now as I get up to the further half of the travel of this knob. And one change I made from MerlinB's original schematic is I cut the ratio knob in half. I didn't find the extreme settings. Pretty much any setting after the first half of the knob wasn't really useful to me, and I didn't have guitars with a need for that much compression. So I've cut the knob in half, and you can hear it does start adding a little bit of noise once you get past the halfway point here, which was another problem when the knob was twice this value. As you turned it up, it got noisier and noisier. But this is hardly any noise at all for a Dynacomp, and I'm using single coils. So you can hear it doesn't really add any noise whatsoever. It's louder, but so think about it, right? Yeah, that's about unity. And you'll hear as it goes to the second half of the travel of the knob that you start getting this swell effect. And a lot of people, that's like a stereotypical compressor sound. This sort of sag or just evening out of all your notes. So if you're playing rhythm, playing rhythm and you're feeding it volume the whole time, it's going to stay at the same rate, which, you know, it's useful for rhythm players, but this setting's not as useful for lead players. And I'm just going to switch the bright switch back real quick. And that sort of adds in some of your dynamics in attack. Soft, it doesn't trigger it as much, and you still get some sustain, but it doesn't squish all of your notes. And this is one of the best uses of a compressor. It's not my personal use of a compressor. I generally use compressors to normalize distortion that follows, because you can control the distortion a little better on single notes versus chords. But this is one of the things that a compressor does very well. It gives you really good control over your dynamics, because now everybody can hear the really subtle stuff as well as your normal hard strumming. So really loud like that, to picking really softly, with the compressor off, it doesn't help as much. So that's that one. Again, that's the engineer's thumb, and you can find the schematic and an etch layout on free stomp boxes and DIY stomp boxes. And I believe MerlinB also posts it on his website. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm going to compare it to a couple other compressors this weekend, and I'll do the Orange Squeezer next.